167 men died on a steel platform in the North Sea on a summer evening in 1988. It is still the deadliest offshore oil disaster in history. And the most disturbing thing about it is not how it started. It is that almost everyone who followed the safety procedure died, and almost everyone who broke it lived. Piper Alpha stood about 120 miles northeast of Aberdeen, in water 470 feet deep. It was operated by Occidental Petroleum, and it was one of the largest producers in the North Sea. On the night of the 6th of July, 226 men were on board. Most of them were asleep, or heading that way. The platform had been built to handle oil. Later, gas processing was added to it. That change mattered more than anyone realized, because it put high-pressure gas equipment close to the control room and the accommodation. The layout that made sense for an oil platform was dangerous for a gas one, and nobody redesigned it. There were two condensate pumps, A and B. They pushed liquid out into the pipeline. On the morning of the 6th, Pump A was shut down for maintenance. A pressure safety valve was removed from it, and the opening where the valve had been was covered with a temporary metal blank. The blank was hand-tight. It was never meant to hold working pressure. It was a placeholder until the valve came back. The men doing that work filled out a permit and, at the end of the day shift, took it to the control room. The engineer who should have received it was not there. So the permit was left on the desk. There was a second permit, for other work on the same pump, and that one was signed off as complete. That evening, Pump B failed. The night shift needed condensate moving again, and they had minutes to decide. They checked the paperwork. They found the permit that said the work on Pump A was finished. They did not find the one sitting on the desk, saying a safety valve was missing. At around 10 o'clock they started Pump A. Condensate under pressure reached the blank flange, and it gave way. Gas escaped at high pressure, screaming out of the gap, and someone heard it. Seconds later it found an ignition source. The first explosion tore through a firewall. That firewall had been designed to resist fire. It had not been designed to resist a blast, because when the platform was built it handled oil, and oil does not detonate like gas. The blast destroyed the control room. That single fact shaped everything that followed. There was now no central place from which anyone could see what was happening, shut anything down, or tell the crew what to do. The emergency lighting failed. The public address system was gone. The firefighting pumps were on automatic, but they had been switched to manual, because divers were in the water and nobody wanted the intakes running. So the platform's own fire system did not start. Oil began burning. Then a pipeline ruptured, and the fire became something else entirely. Piper Alpha was connected by gas pipelines to two other platforms, Tartan and Claymore. Those pipelines were still full, still pressurized, and still pumping. The men on Tartan and Claymore could see Piper Alpha burning from miles away. They did not shut down. Not out of indifference. Their managers did not believe they had the authority to stop production without an instruction from onshore, and no instruction came. So gas kept arriving at a platform that was already on fire. At about 20 past 10, the Tartan riser ruptured. The gas inside a pipeline that size, released and ignited at once, produced a jet of flame that observers compared to a blowtorch the height of a tower block. The heat was enough to soften steel from a distance. Meanwhile, the crew had done exactly what they were trained to do. The procedure was to muster in the accommodation block and wait to be taken off by helicopter. Around 100 men gathered there. But no helicopter could approach a fire like that, and the smoke made the helideck unusable within minutes. They waited in a room that was slowly filling with smoke, because that was the instruction, and there was nobody left in a control room to tell them otherwise. Outside, in the dark, other men were making a different decision. They climbed down to the lowest level they could reach and jumped, from heights of 100 feet and more, into a sea covered in burning oil. That is a decision the training explicitly told them not to make. Almost every one of the 61 survivors got off the platform that way. The firefighting vessel the Rose moved in and extended its gangway toward the platform, but the heat drove it back before many could cross. Small fast rescue craft went in among the burning water to pull men out. One of them was destroyed. 2 of its crew were killed, along with a man they had already rescued. At around 1:45 the accommodation block, with the men still inside it, broke away from the platform and went into the sea. Most of the dead were found there. The final toll was 167. 165 who worked on the platform, and 2 rescue crew. 61 men lived. The inquiry was led by Lord Cullen and sat for 180 days. Its report made 106 recommendations, and it did not pin the disaster on one broken part. It found a permit-to-work system that people had stopped taking seriously, a shift handover that lost a critical piece of paper, a design that had outgrown its own safety case, and a chain of command in which nobody offshore felt able to switch off a pipeline they could see feeding a fire. Every one of the 106 recommendations was accepted. They produced the safety case regulations, which put the burden on the operator to demonstrate that a platform is safe rather than merely to comply with a checklist. That framework is now used across the industry, and well beyond the North Sea. But the part worth carrying away is the smaller one. 100 men did what the procedure told them to do, and waited in a room for a rescue that was never physically possible. The people who lived were the ones who looked at the situation in front of them, decided the plan no longer described reality, and jumped. A safety procedure is only ever a guess about what tomorrow's emergency will look like. Piper Alpha is what happens when the guess is wrong and nobody is left with the authority to say so.